If you like tonight's style of fishing, it means that you're going to have to walk a long way and be happy being over the top of the water. Tonight, it's all about piers and jetties here on the Florida Insider Fishing Report.
Welcome to the Florida Insider Fishing Report, presented by Yamaha.
You're watching another exciting week of the Florida Insider Fishing Report, and we're your hosts, Brie Gabrielle and Captain Rick Murphy. This week, Rick, it's not so much a species we're talking about, but getting everyone familiar with a more accessible but still very effective way to fish from a pier, jetty, or dock. Isn't that right, Rick?
You're absolutely right. And you know, the one thing that's so cool is that all of those bridges in the Florida Keys now, the old bridges, are considered fishing piers. Perfect. And the same thing with the Skyway. We have just tremendous fisheries around piers because obviously there's structure, and then that creates the bait to come to them.
They're all accessible.
And then you got all the species gathering.
All walks of life, too. All right, well, I know Dave has a lot more to add to the pier. Why are you laughing to the pier and jetty discussion, don't you, Dave?
I was laughing because of the all walks of life. It definitely can be like the DMV down there. on the jetty or pier.
DMV.
You know, sometimes it can be a little rough, you know.
The waiting game, too, I'm
just
sure.
saying.
Got to wait your turn for a good spot.
That's right.
All right, we're starting over in the Startron Central West region, where Captain Jeff Page has all the pier and jetty goods for us. Talk to us, Page.
Yeah. You know, in the Startron Central West region, we have some of the best pier and jetty fishing that there is. And it all starts at the north end of my region, where it's one of the biggest fishing piers in the state. And like Rick said, a lot of those bridges you have to walk a long way, but at the Skyway on the north side and the south side, with the middle span removed, you can drive right up to your fishing spot. And they both have bait stands and plenty of areas to park. And the cool thing about all these piers and jetties that I'm going to talk about is there's always locals, always regulars out there that are willing to help you. And I always suggest, if you're going to go out there, don't bring a bunch of stuff the first time. Maybe bring a couple rods and a bucket and see what they're using. Working my way to the south, on the tip of Anna Maria, which is known as Bean Point, there's two awesome piers that stick out into the Gulf. One is the old rod and reel pier, which is still a mainstay on Anna Maria. And then just a little bit to the east is the City Pier, which has been completely renovated. Both have restaurants, and there's always big fish being caught off it. The cool thing is a lot of the guys there catch their own bait right there off the pier. Now in Sarasota, we have the Tony Sofrito Pier, which is right next to Hart's Landing Bait and Tackle. So you can walk there, get your shrimp, and then walk out onto the Tony Sofrito Pier. And then in Venice, we have the jetties, and we also have the South Fishing Pier. And then last but not least, down at the mouth of the Mayaca River, we have the El Joe Bean Pier. Now, the cool thing about all of them is different species, different time of year, but there's always something going on. In the winter, you got more sheephead and black drum and flounder, stuff like that. Kingfish in the spring, but then in the summer, lots of snook, redfish. And like I said, go out there, ask a few questions. You'll definitely make a few friends, and you're going to have a good time. I have 3 photos tonight. The first 2 are of the nighttime jetty master, Dave Parmalou, the Mad Snooker, and a guy that fished with him named Greg. And they were right there at the Venice Jetty. You can see the lights of the crow's nest across the way. Wow. And my third picture is a good friend and pier master angler, Eric Hernandez from Venice, and that's off the Venice Fishing Pier.
Nice. Good pictures this week, Paige. Tell me what else is going on inshore.
All right. Well, we were talking about this on the phone this week. All those red-headed minnows have pushed into the bays, and they're pressed up against shorelines in the high tide in the morning, which we have right now, and snook are in there just crashing on it. You can go in there with lures, you can go in there with live bait, it really doesn't matter. You want to stay off the action as far as you can. That's why having a good trolling motor and a power pole really helps. And also mixed in are redfish, gag grouper, and trout. But the snook fishing was really good once that time came up and the fish were able to get in tight on the bait schools. And it's funny, Rick, The same thing that occurs down your way. Those tight areas of minnows, always that little man in the white suit, that little egret, is going to be bunched up there. And it's not uncommon to pull in there and you'll catch 20 or 30 snook. Some of them up to 30. No big breeders yet. I believe they're still out in the Gulf. And then I've gotten good reports of nighttime snook fishing around Longboat Pass as well as New Pass. Guys using ladyfish, and also at the Venice Jetty, big silver mullet. And I've got a photo tonight of Captain Devin York out of Economy Tackle with a 41-incher he got the other morning. Pretty skinny, but a big, long fish.
Yep, you're not kidding. All right, let's go offshore, bub.
Gag grouper, second week in a row. The near shore gag grouper has been really good. Captain Josh Prunier of Rip and Lips Charters out of Bradenton been scoring well with a mixture of lip plugs and live pinfish, and he's keeping his areas real tight. He's fishing in no deeper than 60 feet, usually 30 to 40, and the fish are held on tight little areas of hard bottom and rock, and he's had no problem getting his limit, and he's had no problem catching his pinfish on the way out with sabiki or with cast net. And I've got a photo tonight of one of Happy Client aboard Josh's boat with a nice gag he got. And my last species, yellowtail snapper, steam species from a couple weeks ago, but it still is remaining. If anything, it's gotten better. Captain Kalen O'Lair on the Flying Hawaiian out of Stump Pass has been doing real well on his yellowtail and mangrove snapper trips. And he's been, and also Captain Tim No up this way. And they've both been using shrimp on a jig head or small pieces of fresh cut pilchard, no heavier than a 1/4 ounce, even an 1/8 ounce. They've been doing well from 80, 90 feet on out, hard bottom areas and ledges. And that last photo is of a nice limit Kalen O'Lair out of Stump Pass got with his client.
Nice. All right, Captain Page, way to start us off. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the Daiquiri Deck hotspots from the Central West region. He says inshore, the redfish, good schools of reds around the flats, at the mouth of the Manatee River and at Long Bar. Tough to beat, a 1/4 ounce Johnson Gold Spoon, guys. And then offshore, red groupers remains consistent in 110 feet of water over the areas of hard bottom off of Anna Maria. Live pinfish, frozen sardines, or squid are going to be your best baits.
All right, let's venture a little north into the Discover Crystal River Northwest region and see what Captain Jeff Hageman has to add to our pier theme today. Hey, Hag.
Well, my region starts off where Paige stops there. My region has a lot of piers. We have the biggest pier in the area is the Sunshine Skyway. Jeff was just kind of mentioned about. It spans most of the mouth of Tampa Bay. Always holds big fish all year round, which brings in those predators for an easy meal. We got a wide variety of species you can catch off of it: tarpon, sharks, kingfish, grouper, snapper, Spanish mackerel. Good water flow, good depth. And the old bridge was actually taken down, the span that they took out, the center span, and spread across about 35 feet off each side of the pier. So on the southern part of both sides of the Skyway, that rubble from the bridge is all spread out there. So great place to fish. Holds a lot of bait, holds a lot of fish, good structure. But we've got some other piers in the area. Reddington, Clearwater, Paso Grille's got a pier/jetty on it that's really good to fish, but we got a lot of access points. If you don't have a boat, there's no reason to not get out there and enjoy some saltwater fishing or take a kid fishing out there. Moving inshore, the snook bite remains strong in the lower half of the region. Both the incoming and outgoing tides are doing good. Look for fish with places with good current flow, docks, passes, beaches, mangrove points, sandy potholes. Live pinfish, sardines are the go-to baits early in the morning and late afternoon. Walk the dogs will be working then, and surface plugs. And as that sun gets a little higher, you might want to switch over to a deeper suspension bait or a 1/4 ounce jig head. Worm hook with a white jerk shad is a little more effective once that sun gets up. Moving offshore, Captain Rob reports the red grouper bite has been really good in that 150 to 200 feet of water. Threadfin herring, tip of squid, or live baits are both working good. 60 to 80 pound fluorocarbon leader with a 6 to 8 aught circle hook, and 6 to 8 ounces of lead is working best. Now don't forget, FWC just announced a closure on red grouper and triggerfish starting September 15th. till January. So that's going to be closed for a little bit. So don't forget that when you're out there fishing. And I've got a great photo of a awesome fire truck aboard Big Nasty.
Boy, that is nice. All right, what else you got for us this week?
Also, another report from Captain Rob. Black grouper, similar to the water that he's catching those red grouper in 150, 200 feet of water. Live bait is getting it done, and big live baits. Big pinfish, big grunts. The larger baits, getting it down, let them soak a little longer. 100-pound fluorocarbon leader, 10-aught circle hook, 10 to 12 ounces of lead, and I've got a picture here of a nice black from Captain Rob.
Nice. All right,
Pretty.
thanks for the pictures this
Pretty
week,
fish.
Hag. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the Ozella Key Marina hotspots from the Northwest region. Jeff says inshore, the redfish bite throughout the region remains strong on the top of the tide. Use cut bait, and then offshore, groupers in 120 to 200 feet of water over the rock piles and ledges. Use pinfish and sardines on a standard bottom rig as bait.
All right, hang on tight, everyone, and get ready to cast into the Fish Bites East region coming up next. But first, Dave, what are you doing over there? We've got some tips for Academy Sports and Outdoors rigs and techniques for us.
I do. I've buried myself.
I see that.
I'm going to tell people not to take a whole lot of stuff on the pier, and I've taken everything that I own out here.
Do what you say, not what you do.
Exactly.
Okay.
Oh, that sounds
We'll be
that sounds like a mom. Oh boy.
I am a mom. I'm a mom of two, actually.
I know.
Oh, yeah. We'll be back.
Dave, we have lots of things here on the CCA workbench, and the rigs and techniques
do.
by Academy Sports and Outdoors should be very interesting. So let's
Yeah, well, I've got like
dive
12
in.
things to try to go through.
Oh, boy.
First thing, when you go on a pier or a jetty, you want to go early.
Yeah.
And it's not only because, there's a good bite, right in the morning usually, but you want to get there and get your spot. And it doesn't mean always that you're going to be at the very end of the pier. A lot of times there's a structure or a trough or, some sort of rip that you can see on the surf side. That's the place to be, and you want to be there first. And a lot of it's done with the tides. You want to be there during the right tide, but if you're not there and you can't hold your spot, it doesn't matter what tide you get there on. So
Right.
you got to get there early and get your spot, and try to find the best place.
Cool.
Carry enough, but not too much. I got a lot of stuff here, but you want to try to target 3 or 4 species. That way you don't bring everything that you own. You never know what's going to show up in the surf, so you don't want to bring every rod that you have. You want to try to bring stuff that can catch a wide variety of things. You want a 7-foot rod, not a 6-foot rod or a 10-foot rod. You might want to take one 10-foot rod, but you want to have 3 or 4 other ones that you can do other things with.
Right.
I've caught a lot of big fish at the end of the pier because I had bigger things that the other people didn't have. The
Right.
rental people,
Gotcha.
usually. Always bring some wire. There's always going to be mackerel and bluefish and that sort of thing around. So you got to have some number 4, number 5 wire. It doesn't have to be really heavy wire, just enough to keep the barracudas and the mackerels and all that stuff from stealing your lures and your jigs, because they will. And if if once you get you to where you can tie an Albright knot to heavy mono, 30-pound mono to number 5 wire, that's what you really want to learn. You want to go on. It's kind of hard to teach you in the 3-minute thing, but
Yeah, we can't
go
even see
online. Yeah, you can't hardly see it. But also, when you want to, I finished this one really different than normal. Usually, you'll have a really sharp
Right here on the
tag that sticks out. But when you cut that tag off, before you cut that tag off, leave a long enough tag that you can tie a haywire twist, and then make a couple of wraps, bimini wraps, and then you can break it off.
Right.
So now you have a very smooth connection there, and you don't have to worry about cutting your hand or something like that. But always want to have some kind of wire around.
Okay.
Again, 3 or 4 rods tops. You want a couple of them rigged for baits. Like this one's got a Jupiter rig on it for a live bait type of deal. You want to have one with a jig on it for sure. Something that you can cast a long way for a jig. And you want to have a bait rod, a little Alvey orbiter, a little spinning reel, put a sabiki on it or some little gold hooks. You can make your own little if you want to, but you got to have something that you can catch bait with. And And always use a snap swivel on the ends, like this right here. You know, if you have a snap swivel on everything, when you go to change stuff out at the, during the day,
right.
Let's say you got a blitz of the mackerels come through and you want to change out. Well, you don't have to retie everything. If you've got a really good snap swivel on there, you just put your loop through the swivel and boom, you're ready to go. Bring a nice bucket. A bucket, it's ubiquitous. You should always have a bucket. You can and enough rope to reach the water.
Right.
You want to be able to fill it, with water. You can keep bait in it. This is a really cool bucket. We'll talk about it later in new products, but you just want to have a good bucket because you can carry a lot of stuff in it.
Jigs.
And a backpack is good as well. Yeah.
Jigs.
A jig,
Sabikis.
Sabiki rigs are great for live baits. You want to always be able to get live bait. If you're good with a cast net, you want to bring a cast net, but you want to make sure again that if you're on a pier or a bridge, you've got a long rope. You don't want to be, a guy will have a nice long rope that is plenty long enough for when he's throwing off the front of his boat, and he'll go to try to throw that rope off a pier or a bridge and find out, doesn't have enough rope.
So what else do we use? We got jigs in here, also stuff that throws a long way, correct?
Gold spoons, little pompano jigs are always good because it's amazing what will eat a little pompano jig. You can catch big snook on those things, believe it or not.
Yeah.
Big snook, mangrove snappers, all the little fishes that'll hang around. It's definitely mackerel that'll hang around a pier or a bridge. Loves to eat little jigs and spoons. Gold spoon thrown in the surf is great to have. Always use. You want to be trying to use probably 30-pound test line, tops, braided line. Maybe if you're out shark fishing, go to 80. If you're fishing, striking big tarpon out there and maybe you can get a hold of one of those, you want to use 80-pound.
How do you land a fish you want to eat?
There's a thing called a bridge gaff that you can lower down and stick them. It's a big treble hook kind of is what it is.
And then don't they also make a hoop net or
They
something?
also make hoop nets that you can go down, and that's really great if you're catching a tarpon or something and you want to release it, or a slot snook. That's over the slot or under the slot, and you want to release it. You don't want to put a bridge gaff in it and then let it go with a big hole in it.
Plus, it's hard to gaff a snook. You know what I mean?
Yes.
But you can
especially
certainly
with
net
the
them.
bridge gaff.
Yeah.
Well, Dave, I learned a lot.
Ubiquitous?
Rick learned a new word. I was just going to say
I'm going to have to look that one up. But I don't even know how to spell it, so I've already got a problem.
He looked at me with eyes this
Starts with a
big.
U.
All right. Offshore and inshore game fish can be caught from a pier in the Fish Bites East region, but you're going to have to be prepared. So let's do so with Captain Mike Holliday. Hi, Mike.
Hey, Brie, how are you? So shorebound anglers can fish the Lake Worth or Juneau piers for everything from sailfish to mangrove snapper, snook, and pompano. Both piers hold a lot of bait, and as the mullet run ramps up, the snook, the tarpon, the sharks, and the Spanish mackerel, those all become the main targets on the piers. At the same time, the jetties at all the inlets in my region are great places to target snook and tarpon. There's a great mangrove snapper and a cubera snapper bite going on right now, and flounder. Don't overlook flounder when you're fishing the jetties. You can access the south jetties in Fort Pierce and in Jupiter, and there's limited access to the north jetties at St. Lucie. You have to walk down to that one. And at Lake Worth Inlet, you got to find parking for that spot. Around the jetties, you can float a large mullet out with the tides for tarpon or big jacks, or you can put a finger mullet on a jig head and bounce it along the bottom and around the rocks for a snapper and flounder and snook. You can throw swimming plugs, topwater plugs, or on the windy nights, an R&R flare hawk jig is money on those big fish on both snook and tarpon. The South Jetty in Fort Pierce has a ton of bait right now inside the Spur Jetty. It seems like the flounder are tight to the rocks in that spot, and it's like the snook and the occasional redfish are in that same area, but they're a little further away from the rock. So depending on what you're trying to target, you want to either be in tighter or making a longer cast. I got a photo from the Juneau Beach Pier. That's Kyler Wiedenbrenner with a big snook and overslot fish. They catch that in the net, they bring it up, it's too big, they put it back in the net, and they lower it back down so the fish can be released uninjured. And while we're talking about snook, You know, we're starting to see these extreme high tides of fall. Those move the snook to the shorelines and to the seawalls. They put a lot more water in front of the seawalls. The fish move in tight on those walls to feed on the mullet going by. The first of the mullet are pushing down the beaches. I heard they showed up really well in Fort Pierce today. So we've got great snook action taking place around Pepper Park and Fort Pierce, as well as the dock lines in Fort Pierce around the Pelican Yacht Club and the Coast Guard Station, particularly at night. Further south, the 10-cent bridge in Stewart has some big fish on it. Those fish are eating live croakers. The A1A bridge is on fire in Jupiter. That's at night, as well as the seawalls in the Loxahatchee. That's a daytime topwater plug bite. There's also some good nighttime action at the Lantana Bridge, also at the Jensen Beach Causeway, and on the docks of the Intercoastal Waterway in Hope Sound. Snook is definitely the hottest thing going on right now. Start your day throwing topwater plugs or a dye dapper in the mullet colors, or you can fish live mullet along the seawalls. And the average snook in my region is going to be in that like 7 to 15 pound range, but fish over 20 pounds are going to be caught almost on a daily basis right now.
All right, let's go offshore, bub.
Well, the dolphin and sailfish bites have really tapered off in the last couple of weeks. So the most consistent blue water action in my region is for mangrove snapper on the reefs and wrecks in anywhere from 65 to 90 feet of water. Places like the Loran Tower Ledge, the Shrimper Wreck, the 6 Mile Reef, and the 65-foot ledge off Fort Pierce are all producing good mangroves. Anchor up and chum with chunks of sardines or juvenile pilchards or chunks of thread fins. Then drop down a live Spanish sardine, a finger mullet, or a pilchard, either on a fish finder rig or a half-ounce jig head. The biggest mangroves right now are coming at night on live live pinfish or bonita strips. The average mangrove snapper is 1 to 3 pounds, but fish to 10 pounds are being caught. There's some big ones really being caught at night. Justin Eve, I got a good photo there of Justin Eve. He caught that nice mix of mangroves, lanes, mutton snapper in there as well. He was fishing the 6 Mile Reef with Captain Jonathan Earhart out of Stewart, and those fish ate live and dead sardines. The other bite going on offshore, calm seas and a harvest moon this weekend. That'll make for great swordfish conditions. Fish have been feeding in anywhere from 1,500 to 1,800 feet of water. It seems like shallower at night, deeper in the day. The best action's on the humps and ridges off Palm Beach. There's been a lot of small fish in the mix, particularly doing that nighttime bite. The daytime bites produce some fish up to 300 pounds. Really throughout the range, even up towards Jensen Beach. At night, you want to target the fish with everything from a live blue runner or speedo to a rig squid, a ladyfish, or a belly strip out of a bonita or a dolphin. Put the baits out at 50-foot intervals with 1 to 3 lights above it. During the daytime, you use the same baits, but the current's been smoking, so you need 15 to 18 pounds of lead to reach bottom. Average swordfish in my region right now is like 40 to 100 pounds, but the daytime guys are catching them over 300 pounds right now.
Well, we've been getting some rain every afternoon. Has that affected the bass fishing, Mike?
It really does. It makes the bite go longer. Headwaters Lake in Fellsmere continues to be one of the top bass lakes in the country. I was talking to Captain Nathan Schellen. He's telling me he's averaging 70 fish a morning right now on Headwaters. He's starting the day throwing topwater poppers and prop baits, fishing the edges of the grass in open water. He said the bites go until about 10 o'clock because of the overcast weather and the cooler mornings that we're seeing. Fish the lures with long pauses to get the bite. As the sun gets up higher, he's switching over to a black and blue colored 8-inch worm, either fish with a 1/8 ounce weight at the head of it or Carolina rigged with a 1/4 ounce weight. Not a lot of weight. He's working the potholes in 6 to 10 feet of water, really just kind of working the edges of it, not getting it down to the bottom. If it's big numbers you're looking for, he said, go to live shiners, fish them anywhere you can find moving water in the back canals or in open holes out in the middle of the hydrilla. And the average bass right now over there is 2 to 4 pounds, but he had them up to 9 pounds this week. So Headwaters Lake is good. It's just on fire.
Sounds like your whole region's on fire, other than maybe a little bit of sailfish transferring to a snapper bite. I'll take
it. Right.
Thank you so much, Hollywood. We'll talk to you next week. It is time for the TNH Marine Hotspots for the East region. Mike says that inshore, Snook and Tarpon in the Fort Pierce Turning Basin. Use live croakers, mullet, or thread fins. And then offshore, muttons, mangroves, lane snappers on the 6 Mile Reef off of Stewart. Sardines, cigar minnows, and fish bite squid chunks is going to work for those things, dude.
Trade some sailfish for some dinner.
Yeah, man.
Sounds good to me. All right, did you know that every year in CCA Star there are West Marine tagged redfish captured off of a pier? Did you know that, Rick?
No, I did not.
Well, this year it was in Sebastian, and years past Pensacola and St. Augustine. But you have to be registered in the competition presented by Yamaha, or you will not be awarded one of the boat, motor, and trailer packages from Contender, Pathfinder, or Spider boats. This year's award ceremony is presented by Discover Crystal River and will be held on October 9th in Crystal River. Everyone's invited to enjoy an evening of live entertainment, a great swag bag, dinner, drinks, and the awarding of nearly 100 winners in this year's competition. Go to ccaflstar.com for more information. I cannot believe I just said October 9th. That's already here. Woo!
Can you believe it?
Crazy time warp right now.
Santa Claus will be coming before you know it, Brie.
Santa Claus will be coming.
Santa Claus.
All right, the Alta Equipment Keys and Real Legends Southwest regions are
best.
in our sights next, only on the Florida Insider Fishing Report, so stay hooked and get ready to reel. We'll be right back. Santa Claus.
Santa Claus.
You're already thinking Christmas?
Yeah.
It's not even Halloween.
Absolutely right. You know, Brie, the thing is, little boats are so exposed to the weather. It's not like a sport fish or even a center console that you have a T-top that you can get under.
Right.
And knowing what the weather's doing is key, for sure.
Reliability, yes.
That's right.
All right, there may not be many piers to speak of in the Alta Equipment Keys region, but there are definitely fun structures to fish from. And Captain Randy Tao is on the line to bridge that gap for us. Hey, Randy.
Hey.
Hey.
Hey, good evening, fish fans. You know, here in the Alta Equipment region, our bridges are the fishing piers of the Keys. Now, not every bridge has the ability to fish next to it. And a lot of the old bridges, they left up so that you could fish off of, which is kind of cool. The upper Keys, you've got Channel 2, Channel 5, Long Key Bridge, and then you've also got the Tom's Harbor bridges, which are down toward Duck Key. Now, bridge fishing is a little different because conditions are really difficult. If you're trying to fish there on an extreme moving tide, you're never going to make it to the bottom. And there's a lot of lead around those bridges from people getting hung thinking they need more lead to hold the bottom. But if you know how to fish it, you know when to go, you know the tides, they can really hold a lot of quality fish, and especially the snook and tarpon at night. So a lot of guys who understand the tides and fish around those periods where the tide's changing, or maybe on a moon phase where it's not as strong, those are the guys kind of making the difference. You can catch jacks, barracudas, mangrove snappers during the day, but if you're going to bridge fish, certainly take notice of the current, and that's going to help in the long run of having a lot better success. Moving on in the backcountry with snook fishing, you know, the snook bite's been really steady, and a lot of the guys on the flats now are not seeing as many, and that's telling me that they're moving maybe a little offshore or some of the deeper waters and shorelines. I've had some pretty good snook fishing the last week or so myself. Now, the conditions have been really nice. If you've noticed, the winds have dropped out. It's been hot, it's been calm, and it's just been a great condition to find fish back there. The tides have been good, and a lot of it's been in the morning. You know, those morning afternoons are key. Moving water is also really important. You want to find current, and that's one of the keys for snook fishing. They don't like no current or an ebb tide where things are just sitting still. Some live finger mullet back there. I like to use pinfish this time of year on a jig head. That's one of my favorite. And I had a quest the other day for Wendy from Fort Lauderdale. She wanted a snook for her birthday for dinner. We caught them 27 inches, and we caught them over 34 inches. And this is a picture of one of her 34-inch snook we caught.
Wow, maybe next time she'll get
birthday.
a slot-sized fish within the slot. Tell me about the dolphin offshore, bub.
She had chicken, so it was okay.
That's right.
You know, the dolphin bite's still going on strong. It's amazing this late in the year how good it is, and some nice fish, some big fish being caught, and almost everybody I've talked to getting in on this. You know, whether you're in a bay boat, even some skiffs are getting out because it's been so calm. Birds are key, and floating debris is also key for finding these fish right now. They can be from 400 feet on out. You want to be ready. You want to pay attention to the bird activity for sure. And I was talking to Captain Pablo Rodriguez with Slam Time Charters out of Marathon. He was out the other day around 600 feet of water, found a set of birds, and he sent me this picture of a nice big cow dolphin they caught in his contender bay boat.
All right. And tell me about the Blackfin Tunas.
The tuna bite has been strong. Both the marathon hump and the duck key hump, they call that the 409. They call the marathon hump the west hump. Both of those humps have been holding a lot of fish right now. If you want to catch dinner, it's not too hard to go out there with some small dark feathers or eels, which I like to use, and troll around the top of the humps. And there's been some dinner size tunas pretty easy to catch when they're behaving like that. And then if you want to target the big ones, you really need the live bait. You need a lot of pilchards to chum these bigger ones up to the surface. And also a vertical jig will do the job just as well. Now, I was talking to Captain James Simsick with Spear Crazy Charters out of Marathon. He said he was at the hump the other day, chummed, caught big whopper blackfin tunas, never had a shark problem. He sent me this picture of him and his son with one of their marathon tunas.
Nice. Hey, happy birthday, you old dog.
Yeah. Happy birthday.
Thank you. Haven't caught up to you yet.
No, you never will. Just a little click older every day.
Just a click.
Just stay a couple days ahead. But that's the way it's been our whole life. So ain't no sense in getting upset about it. All right, we're going to go ahead and take a look at the hot spots from the Florida Keys region. And Randy says, if you're going to the Keys, go inshore fishing for bonefish. Look in 2 to 4 feet of water for bonefish swimming. Have your shrimp and your jig ready to cast, and make sure that you cast out in front of the moving bonefish. Good sunlight is very important to see them. And then offshore, blackfin tunas fish the offshore humps early in the morning or late in the day. Troll dark feathers or black eels for dinner-sized tunas.
All right, Rick. Well, it's all about the details when it comes to pier and jetty fishing in the Real Legends Southwest region. So let's check in with your Captain Ron Houston for the weekend update. Go for it, Ronnie.
Well, like always, it's always a pleasure representing the Real Legends Southwest region. You know, piers and jetties, with several piers and jetties throughout the region. You got Naples, you got Fort Myers, you got Matanzas, you got Bokeelia, and you got Port Charlotte at the Lashley boat ramp, combined with jetties, which obviously is most of the passes through the region that are lined with rock to avoid the washouts. Now, these places have a few things in common. They're going to be current, bait, and most important, structure for fish all year round, whether it be snook, tarpon, sheep's head, drum, snappers, ladyfish, and jacks, just to name a few. Now, they can be targeted both by land and by boat. They can be fished a couple different ways due to current and eddies. There will be places that the fish will always be, depending upon tide, current, whether it be a piling or a rock on the part of the jetty. From the top of the water column down about 3 feet, that will mean steadily bringing your bait by with the motion of the current, whether it be top water, subsurface, jigs, soft plastics. But then there will be zones where the fish will be on the bottom in the exact spot just about every time, according to the tide. Baits on the bottom include shrimp, pinfish, herring, pilchards, and a variety of cut baits. Learning the key zones, depending upon what time of year it's going to be, will almost guarantee you a fish every time. And I got a prime example of a nice fish recently caught, a nice snook, down in the southern end of the region. Now, still on the inshore side, the redfish. You know, the red fishing is great throughout the whole region. Now, to the north, the fish are schooled up right now. The key areas are going to include Two Pines to Burn Store. And on those calmer days or light ripple days, you're going to look for these fish to be pushing on top, and they will be schooled up heavy. Also, Cape Hayes to Turtle Bay. Mid part of my region, Estero Bay. Now, the eastern shoreline, tide's going to be mid-incoming to mid-outgoing, up along the mangroves. With these tides, you want to try to catch them before they get to the mangroves, and then catch them when they're leaving the mangroves. And then a little further to the south, Coon Key to Pavilion Key on the outer Gulf Islands, especially the ones that are loaded with bait and pelicans diving the bait along the blowdowns and deadwood. Now, a variety of baits can be used like all through the region, like the Berkeley hijackers, the Bass Assassin, foreign sea shads and Laguna shrimp, quarter-ounce and half-ounce gold spoons, live pinfish, live pilchards, and cut ladyfish will also catch fish all through the region. And I got a couple prime examples of a nice redfish that was just caught by Mike Dixon to the north, fishing the Flats Masters tournament last weekend, and a nice picture of some top water fish caught by Joe Casero to the south. Before I go offshore, the Naples Tickle Soldier fishing event is this weekend. It's going to be out of Hamilton Harbor. It's going to be, boats will start coming in, inshore and offshore boats, about 1 o'clock. And with the 20-year anniversary of 911, there'll be plenty of first responders, police, fire, and military So get out and support this event. On the offshore side, the Spanish mackerels. Seems like it's fall starting. Concentrate from West Pass to Gordon Pass, anywhere from the beach line out to about 12 miles. Now you can fish wrecks and artificial reefs, but you also want to concentrate on large bait pods and look for the diving birds. Now mostly on the run and gun bite, you're looking for the bait pods and the diving birds. But your wrecks and reefs, you're going to be anchoring up or drifting across. You will see these fish where there's an abundance of bait on the wrecks and the reefs. Wire leaders are suggested, or you can show them with live pilchards, which can be caught along the beach line on your way out. A lot of them are small right now, so I suggest using a 1/4-inch net mesh net suggested, or using artificials to catch these fish like silver spoons, gotcha lures, or the simple old white and chartreuse bucktail. Last species is going to be the tripletail, especially with the weather looking like it's going to be calm for the weekend. Concentrate your efforts right now from Lossman's River to Cape Romano, and you want to concentrate on wrecks, park boundary markers, and running the tide line out to about 8 miles. So you want to run the tide line both north and south out to about 8 miles. A lot of guys don't do that. You'd be surprised what you see in that tide line. Mostly a sight fishing pattern. While running, you run by, you see a fish, drop back, cast ahead of the fish to bring it to the fish. These tripletail have strong mouths, so I strongly suggest tonight's trocar circle hook or a jig head with a strong hook. But if you're not accurate at the sight casting these fish, you can get in the vicinity. All you got to do is make a cast with a noise-making cork, get it near the fish, pop the cork a few times to try to draw the fish to the bait. Simple baits will include live pilchards, shrimp, small cut baits, and artificial shrimp and paddle tails on a jig head. I got a prime example of a tripletail that was recently caught running that pattern by Captain Jim Fortman to the south. Weekend's looking good. Get out to take a soldier fishing. Get out and catch us some fish.
All right, some good tips there by our man, Ron Houston, the Midnight Rider. It's time to take a look at the Catacan Hot Spots from the Southwest region. He says inshore, trout, Boquilla, Jug Creek, Cape Hayes, Pirates Harbor, fishing the diving birds in the bait schools using noise-making corks with soft plastics. And then offshore, Mangrove Snappers, Gordon Pass to Sanibel, fishing the wrecks and artificial reefs, box chum, and dropping back a variety of cut baits. Gonna catch those snappers.
That guy that caught that tripletail had a Panama hat on.
Yeah?
I'm gonna wear my Panama hat next time I go fishing. That
Okay.
sounds great.
I think
so
that
fancy.
You'll look so cool.
Thanks. Speaking of looking cool, Rick, it's Real Legends Week, which means big deals and savings. And now through September 21st, head to reallegends.com to get 40% off Real Legends apparel for the entire family. And also, if you like we've been wearing, text Insider to 97108 for a link to reallegends.com as well, where you will find these styles and more. You know, Christmas is coming up, like you said, Santa Claus.
Santa Claus.
And I think a lot of family
At
members would like
40%
some Real
off, they're
Legends.
giving it away.
They're giving it away.
Come on, guys.
Get ready. All right, we're swimming our way into the R&R Tackle Southeast region next, but first, I'm just dying to see what Dave has for us this week.
What?
For new products at the workbench.
The Christmas bonus for
Ooh.
Dave. It's Santa. Rick, you're like Santa, aren't you?
Hint,
I
hint.
am.
You
nudge,
are.
nudge.
I'm the most giving guy most
Carbon
of the time.
5-inch. Very
Well,
nice.
At least we know what Dave wants.
I could use one.
We could all use one. We'll be back.
It's time for the Taco Marine new products here at the CCA workbench, Dave, and you got them, so let's just go ahead and get started.
You
What
got
do we
them all
here
out.
from Alvey?
Well, that's, we had that little bucket on there. It said if you're going to go on a fish on a pier or a bridge or something, you should bring a bucket. Well, the Alvey Glow Bait bucket would be one to take. What's really cool about this bucket, it's got the 4 inserts inside there that were engineered to fit in the bucket and, separates things out. And they glow. They glow in the dark. You can charge those up for 2 hours, and they'll glow for 8 hours. So, and it puts out enough light. You could actually tie a knot with the glow of that.
So you don't necessarily have to use it for bait. You can use it for
exactly,
stuff, and that's what the dividers are all
Correct. And you
Love that.
You put weights and lures and line all in different pockets, and you can even take one out and fill the whole thing up. With water, it puts your lunch in one part, but any liquids that you put in there, if you get that top on it all the way, nothing leaks out of it. That's another thing.
Nice.
Once you get it to where it is.
And
it's a 10-liter bucket.
You could put, like a bag of frozen shrimp or
Oh,
some
yeah.
ballyhoos,
Yes, for
because
sure.
then this pulls out, and now you have the ability to clean it.
To
later
rinse
on.
it out very, very easily.
So where do we find this bucket, Dave?
Alvey
USA?
Alvey.us.
Okay.
Alveyus.com.
Okay.
Next, we got the Stryker Vivid 5CV. It's a 5-inch fish finder with a GPS inside. It's got 500 watts of transmitting power, 480 by 800 pixels, so it gives you a really good screen. They pack a lot of pixels in that little screen. Sunlight readable. It can be portable as well. They sell a portable option where you can bring another power unit with it. Comes with a transducer as well. It's got the built-in Garmin chirp. So it's a really high-powered, I remember when we used to have great big machines that had the chirp. Now you can get chirp in the little tiny ones just like that. The clear view scanning sonar in that little unit. So just really cool, and comes with all the mounting equipment, the brackets for the transducer and the unit, as well as, you get options to make it more portable.
All right.
Garmin.com/marine if you want to go get that Stryker Vivid 5CV.
And now we have the Fish Monkey glove.
Fish Monkey gloves. This is called the Crusher. The Crusher. It's an angling glove. It's a half-finger jigging glove. It's got Kevlar reinforcements all around it. You see all that black stuff here is Kevlar reinforced. It's got that second skin feel, 4-way stretch all the way through it. Really heavy-duty Velcro. You heard him there pulling that thing apart there. It's a really heavy-duty Velcro closure there. It's one of the best all-around fishing gloves you can get. It's got PVC monkey grip on the palm and the fourth on the fingers as well. And
where do we find them?
Fish Monkey.
This is actually
Fish Monkey Gloves
back to me
.com.
back to a job I had in the 80s, which we won't talk about. Putting the gloves on, hearing that.
Oh yeah, I got you.
All right, so what do you got?
Okay, whatever. I'm afraid to ask what that could be.
Don't ask.
Real Tech men's top from Real Legends.
Yeah.
This is a short sleeve, very lightweight. You could wear that. It's pretty nice looking too. You could wear this just to, go to the art gallery, art show. This little thing, walking around in the sunshine. You don't even have to be fishing in it. But it's really good for fishing because it's got the quick dry, moisture wicking, UPF 40 as well. Real Legends just make really nice shirts. This is a very cool pattern.
All my short sleeved shirts, Dave, I wear them to the gym.
Well, there you go.
The Real Legends.
Along with that, we have the men's Bonefish shorts, and these are the UPF 50 as well. They got the water repellent material, a lot of utility pockets, a little plier pocket here as well, grommets so that the pockets will drain. What I like about them is they got a lot of elastic up on the sides here, so
they fit before
expand.
Thanksgiving and after the New Year.
With the Chinese food that I ate earlier this evening, I could have used a couple inches on those suckers, and I did. I used every bit of it. But you can go on, like we said, it's Real Legends Week, so you can go on reallegends.com and find up to 40% off on a lot of really cool stuff right now. So go to reallegends.com, get those shorts and the shirts.
Y'all, but I am so entertained when these gentlemen talk about clothing. It is just so much fun for me to watch. I'm over here smiling.
You missed it when we had to talk about the girls' clothing while you were out.
I saw it.
Skirts.
All right, Piers are where it's at in R&R Tackle Southeast region. So let's check in with Captain Jimbo Thomas and see what we'll be catching from them this weekend. Talk to us, Jimbo.
Hey, Brie, and just like you, I'm a model as well. I look good in all my clothes. But, hey, Rick and Dave as well. In the Southeast region, we have Lake Worth Pier, Deerfield Beach Pier, the Pompano Pier, Anglin's Pier, and South Beach Pier, and I do believe I got them all. And I believe the Pompano and the South Beach Piers are free, and the others charge around $3 to $5. There can also be some good fishing found around all of the jetties of the inlets, although you risk your life walking over those rocks. Now, the Boynton Inlet jetty is basically a fishing pier, and on the south side of Oliver Inlet, there's a concrete walkway. Now, the pier and jetty catch has been made up of small snapper and jacks recently, and there are some Spanish mackerel starting to show up in the north end of the region. But throughout the year, snook, bluefish, pompano, cobia, and even the occasional kingfish, as well as many other species, can be caught off of the piers and the jetties. Now, most of the piers have a good supply of live bait hanging around, making catching your own bait very easy. So make sure you bring along plenty of egg sinkers and hooks when fishing around those piers, since there's usually a lot of snags and hangs. Now, I got a photo here of a 44-inch monster snook caught on a live bait off Juneau Pier by Nathan Cochran. I don't know how we managed to get that thing up off the pier, but that's bigger than any I've ever seen her caught. So,
Butte.
All right, speaking of snook, tell us about the Snook and Tarpon.
You got it. So, no, we've had quite a bit of bait starting to move south along the beaches, and following these schools of bait have been mostly snook and tarpon, but there's also been some jack crevalles, barracudas, and sharks mixed in. Once that bait makes it into the bays, there's also been trout and mangrove snappers feeding on them. Look for the bait on the surface or any bird activity. You can cast net or sabiki a live well full of bait. The sabiki won't work with the mullet, so those will have to be netted. And you want to work the live baits on the outside edges of the bait schools. Use a 2/0 to 6/0 circle hook, depending on the bait size. Or you can cast 3 to 6 inch jerk baits or surface and swimming plugs in black and silver or green and silver. And you want to try and match the lure size to the bait that's in the area. And we have seen some bait here in the south end of the region, mostly pilchards, but most of the bait is more towards the north end of the region. And this bait migration, it should continue for a few more weeks, and it usually peaks around Columbus Day. Now, I got another photo of myself, yours truly, with an overslot snook caught on a live pilchard fishing the western shoreline of Biscayne Bay earlier this week.
And there you are, your
Such a
fashion
model.
statement with your white T-shirt that never seems to get dirty.
He's basic and simple.
Oh,
Love
it's dirty, believe me. But, before we go offshore, I just want to remind everybody about the CCA Star Tournament banquet. It's October 9th, and you want to go to CCA website if you want some more info on that great event. Now, moving offshore, we're still finding dolphin on a daily basis, and the size on average has gotten a little bit better. We're still finding some schools of small fish, but the bulk of the fish have been in the 5 to 8 pound range with some larger fish mixed in. And just like in the past month, the fish have been offshore anywhere from 4 to 15 miles. Look for them around sargassum weed, floating debris, and under birds. But it seems like most of the fish have been under the floaters lately. Now, the few of the fish are being caught on the troll with Rick ballyhoo and small lures and feathers. Once we locate a school, we've been casting small live baits like pilchards, blue runners, also cut bait, cut bonita, and cut ballyhoo to them. And there's also been some bait under some of these weed patches, floaters, so it's a good idea to keep a sabiki rod ready in case you're low on bait. You could drop down and restock the well with the small baits hanging underneath those floaters. Now, moving a little further offshore, the day and nighttime sword fishing has been as good as it gets, especially with this beautiful weather we've had. In the daytime, the bite has been on Rick squid, bonita strips, and belly strips, fish near the bottom, anywhere from 1,500 to 2,000 foot range. And the morning bite seems to be the best the last few days. And then in the evenings, when the fish come up closer to the surface, you can fish a staggered spread of rig baits and live baits. Most popular live baits are live blue runners, rainbow runners, speedos, and tinker mackerel. And most of these swords have been pretty good-sized fish in the 100 to 300 pound range.
All right, thank you so much, Jimbo. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the southeast hotspots from the R&R Southeast region. He says that inshore, look for the snook and the tarpon and all the inlets off of the beaches in the evening and the early morning, where they are eating live and artificial baits. And then offshore, cast live and cut baits to dolphin offshore under the birds, around the weed lines, and also any floating debris.
Rick, are you ready to say bye?
Yes.
Bye
Are you leaving me?
to this truck behind us, because next week we will be choosing the winner for this 1952 3100 hot rod. So make sure you purchase your raffle tickets at ccaflorida.org/hot rod. There's still some time left, right, Rick?
Yeah, and I'm really excited to let somebody else enjoy it like I have.
There you go. It'll be an awesome moment.
It's gonna be fun.
It's going to be me. All right, we're continuing the Pier and Jetty party in the Alvey Reels Northeast region and Garmin Panhandle region, so stick around. And remember to keep up with everything fishing in Florida. Make sure to head over to our website, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter and Instagram, and to see new fishing adventures along with reports, subscribe to our YouTube channel, Captain Rick Murphy. We will see you very soon. Jumping right into the pier and jetty life in the Alvey Reels Northeast region with Captain Tommy Derringer. So Tommy, tell us what we're catching.
We're all about that pier and jetty life here. We have some awesome piers and jetties here in the Alvey Sidecast Reels Northeast region. And, you know, 3 great beach fishing piers in the region are the Jacksonville, St. Augustine, and Flagler Beach piers. You can catch all kinds of different fish from our piers depending on the time of year. And right now, with the very start of our mullet run And the pogies, they're still lining the beach. It's a great time to check those piers out. Now, they can produce some huge kingfish off those piers this time of year. Now, along with those kingfish, redfish, tarpon, sharks, big jacks, they all get into those pods of mullet and pogies along the beach, and they're going to pass by all those piers. So you got a good chance of catching one of those. So if you're looking to catch one of those, those piers in the summer, late summer that is, and early fall, it's going to be a great time to get out there and check it out. Now, live mullet or pogie, either on the bottom or free line, that's going to be a great way to go. But you can do well with just about any kind of cut bait as well. Now, the jetty fishing, it's on fire right now as the mullet, both the big and the small ones, they're just starting to show the beginnings of our fall mullet run. Those tarpon, they're going to be ganging up pretty soon in the inlets. They're going to be busting through those schools of mullet. There's a few. I saw a couple out there today even. But it's going to get better. And the bull redfish, they're being caught around the slack tides in all the inlets this week. And the best bite for those reds has been on the top or the bottom of the tide, right when the tide slacks up. And I spoke to Captain Rob Bennett from coastalfish.net. He tells me he's been catching some big bull redfish, fishing on the bottom with a fish finder rig at the St. Augustine Inlet, and he's using live mullet, pogies, or cut blue crab. And the same thing goes for Mayport and the St. Mary's inlets. Now, this is the time of year, guys, that, I start to remind anglers, take time, revive, and or properly vent those big redfish so they can swim away healthy and make some babies for all of us. Now, speaking of big redfish, I've got a picture here. Captain Rob Bennett sent me this picture of his client, Dwight Moats, with a big bull redfish that they caught at the St. Augustine Inlet. How many spots do you think that fish has on it? I can't count that high, I don't think.
That's so cool, man.
That's awesome.
They look cool when they get that big. So also inshore, guys, with the mullet starting to pour in, the jack crevalle, they've been everywhere this week. On that first of the incoming tide, you can find the jacks chasing mullet in the inlets and around the bridges. And you know what, really, on any tide, as long as the water is moving, you're going to find some of those jacks right now. Now, the average size has been pretty good. They've been pretty big, ranging from about 5 to 10 pounds, or even a little bigger. And they don't get the credit they deserve, but you know what? They are a super fun fish to catch, and they're certainly going to rip some drag off of the reel. Now, one of my favorite ways to catch those jacks is on a topwater plug. I like to use a bigger plug, like the Berkley Jaywalker 120, and then work that thing really fast. Those jacks like a fast-moving bait. Now, it's easy to find the jacks. Just look for the mullet that are getting busted on the surface. And I got another photo here, guys. This is Doug Norman with a beast of a jack that he caught with me last week right along the seawall at downtown St. Augustine. That fish was probably 20-something pounds, so there's some big ones out there.
Wow.
Now, moving offshore, I spoke to Captain Billy Hunsicker from EndlessSummerCharters.com. He tells me he's been on a good mixed bag of snapper this week. He said they've been catching some big vermilions and some nice muttons in that 120 foot and deeper. Now, he also said that the triggerfish have started to group up a little, but they should really start to show up in big numbers over the next couple of months as those fish start to spawn. Now, last year I saw Billy at the dock right around this time of year, and he hooked me up with a bag of those triggerfish fillets. Man, those are some of the best eating fish for sure. Definitely a good time to go book a trip with those guys. Now, also offshore, I spoke to Captain Billy about the grouper bite, and he tells me it's really starting to pick up, and it should continue to get better as things cool off a little bit. And I hope it does, because it's been really hot this week. Now, the gags and some scamp grouper are hanging out on the deep stuff this week from about 150 foot and out. Now, Billy tells me they've been catching those grouper on some small ledges and pieces of live bottom, mostly using some big live baits. Now, Billy said the average size of those grouper have been 20 to 30 pounds, with some fish in the 40s that's been pretty common catching those big ones. And I've got one last picture. This is JD and Tommy Capo's monster gag that they caught with Captain Billy on the endless summer that they went on out of the conch house. And man, Billy catches some big old black belly groupers, as they call them.
You know, even old groupers, though, make great grouper fingers. Don't you agree? Mm-hmm. You just slice it in the size you want. It can go from this big to the little bitty fried. Oh, nothing
Rick
better.
is very hungry right now, Tommy.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're making me hungry now, too. Sounds good.
Me too, kind of.
Come on over. We'll have a fish fry.
All right, I'll be there in a minute.
All right, bub. Thank you so much, Tommy. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the strike zone hotspots from the Northeast region. He says inshore, the Bull Redfish at the bridges and the inlets on the change of the tide, as well as those big jacks. Look for the jacks chasing the mullet, and then offshore, a mixed bag of groupers and snappers and 120 feet and deeper. Those triggerfish, they can really be a pain in the butt. They should be starting up to be grouping up.
Starting up to be grouping up.
Yep.
Let's go.
Starting up to group up.
All right, the Garmin Panhandle region is another place for some fun pier and jetty play. So let's see what Captain Pat Deneen has for us. Go for it, Pat.
Hey, Brie, there's lots of pier and jetty opportunities in the Panhandle. All of our inlets have jetties, and the Panama City Jetty and St. Andrews Park and Destin's East Jetty are both particularly suited for anglers. They both have good parking, and they can provide some really good fishing. Really spring through fall mostly. Gulf side, we have piers in Panama City, Fort Walton Beach, Navarre Beach, and also in Pensacola. They stick well out into the Gulf. They catch a variety of fish depending on the time of year. Catches from the pier could be cobia, Spanish mackerel, and pompano, particularly in the springtime. Mackerels, tarpon, and sometimes sailfish through the summertime. And right now, the kings and the Spanish and the bluefish are biting real well. They're catching the kings and the Spanish on cigar minnows and herrings, or gotcha plugs, and then the bluefish are mostly on jigs and those gotcha plugs. And as soon as we start to get a few cold fronts, usually early October, the flounder fishing off the piers and jetties gets really good on bull minnows or soft plastics, kind of work real slow off the bottom. Staying inshore, starting in late August and September, basically right now, red fishing in the inlets gets good, and it is good right now. Big schools are setting up in the inlets, the Destin Bridge, and also the deeper mid-bay bridges. The outgoing tide is the best, particularly at the beginning of the tide change. Best bet is a live bait on a Carolina rig, with croakers, spot minnows, and figure mullets being the baits of choice. However, when they're biting really good, a heavily weighted soft plastic jig will get the job done. Most of these fish in the inlets are over slot, with a few of those fish being on the top end of the keeper size slots. And there's a picture of Maddox Jenkins and his brother Jackson. They're from South Carolina with a pair of inlet redfish caught this week on live baits and jigs. And like Tommy was mentioning, they are setting up to spawn, and these fish were definitely full of milk. They're making a little bit of a mess on the boys.
That's all right. That may give you a reason to wash the boat, Pat.
Yeah, the mangrove snappers on the nearshore reefs and wrecks are producing decent-sized mangroves. Use live bait like pilchards or small pogies. You want to anchor up or use your Rodan and GPS anchor just up current of the structure, chunk and chum, and then free line bait. But don't get in a hurry. Take a moment to let the fish get comfortable and get up there and really start feeding. Use light leaders and hooks. The Gulf side mangroves are running up to and over 6 pounds. Probably 3 to 4 pounders definitely being more common. And then finally offshore, the good white marlin bite continues at the nipple, the knuckle, and over towards the steps in 600 to 900 foot of water. The problem is finding the sea state to companies get out there. We have had some rough weather lately, but when you do have the current correct conditions, the fishing has been good. Trolling naked and skirted ballyhoo and teasers is going to get the job done. Keep an eye out on the surface for bait, but also keep an eye on your bottom machine to look for those midwater bait schools. That's where the fish are going to be. And there's blues and sails and some dolphins in the mix as well.
All right, thank you so much, Pat Tar. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the blue water outrigger hotspots from the Panhandle region. Pat suggests that inshore, the reds are schooling in the inlets, live bait at the Destin Bridge and the jetties on the outgoing tide. When that water gets a little dirtier, Brie, will really work. And then offshore, white marlin and sailfish at the 131 hole, the nipple, or the knuckle. Try trolling ballyhoos and some teasers, and that'll get those billfish up.
Was that little zinger? It'll give you a reason to wash the boat.
He just, he's got such the life of royalty.
The life of royalty.
He really
does. You hear
does.
that, Pat?
He
You're
does.
royalty.
He does.
All right, the Real Legends Central East region is our last region to explore, so stay with us while we find out what you'll be catching this week right here on the Florida
Insider
Fishing
Report.
Oh.
Got you.
Such a team.
They got it going on.
Yeah, they do. You got to know how to use your equipment.
Absolutely.
Make it work for you.
And they're making equipment for all different parts of the boat now. So
Yeah.
that's kind of cool.
Go Powerful.
Yeah,
Woo.
man.
All right, our Real Legends Central East Region Captain Jim Ross is excited and ready to break down some important info about fishing from a pier. We're all ears, Jim. Go for it.
Well, Rick, those power poles are great. I use mine all the time, but we're talking about piers and jetties, and that's a place that you really can't use a power pole in many cases. But that doesn't mean that you can't catch a lot of fish around them. And what I wanted to talk about is, instead of talking about the type of species that you can catch, let's talk about dissecting what a pier or a jetty. Because what happens is the fish will hold in various places around that pier or jetty as the tide cycle goes through from low to high and then back down to low again. So what you want to do is you want to find where the bait is hiding. And typically that is in an eddy or some kind of an area of still water. Now, just adjacent to that, you're typically going to find a little bit faster moving section of water. As an example, at the Sebastian Inlet, the inside of the elbow, the water moves a little slowly, but just as you move out towards the middle of the channel, it picks up pretty quickly. And so what happens is the snook will lay right on that edge of the slower moving water and the faster moving water, and then they'll wait for those bait fish to try to cross, and that's when they attack them. So things like rocks, pier pilings, anything, a bend in a jetty, anything like that that's going to create a break in the current is where you're going to fish holding a lot of time. Now, like I said, fish will move. They may hold on one side of the jetty on an incoming tide, and they may hold on a completely different side of a jetty on the outgoing tide. There's another example of how they would do at Ponce Inlet and at specifically at Sebastian Inlet. On the outgoing tides, the snook will sit on the outside in the calmer water waiting for fish to come sweeping past that south side of the jetty. Now, redfish, jacks, some of the other fish, they don't really care so much about that. They're a little more aggressive. They're more willing to swim in current. But snook in particular are very particular about where they sit and why they sit there. So dissecting a pier or a jetty is going to boil down to you putting a little time in and watching the tide phase and then where the fish are sitting or where the fish are being caught from during that tide phase. Those are the most important things to remember about fishing a pier or a jetty. Here's an example. I've got a picture here of a snook that was caught at Canaveral. Now, this snook was on the north jetty, but it was on the north jetty on an incoming tide, and so the fish that were sitting on the outside of the jetty actually moved around to the inside of the jetty, and they were holding right next to the rocks, waiting for the mullet to come around the tip of the rock so that they could ambush them. So knowing where that fish was going to lay, given that tide stage, allowed me to catch this fish the other day when I took my wife out.
Nice.
Now, swinging over to redfish, I'll tell you, we've had some great times and we've had some bad times when it comes to the Mesquite Lagoon, the Indian River, the Banana River. But right now, our numbers are getting pretty good. What's happening is we've got these king tides that are getting ready to occur over the next couple of weeks. And our water level with the additional rain and those tides starting to get a little higher is flooding those back saltwater marshes. And so they've opened the culvert pipes, and that's allowing the fish that were back in those salt marsh ponds to move in and out to the main body of water, the main river or the main lagoon. And so what's happening is, as we get closer to this fall equinox, that's going to create even more of an urgency for the fish to come out, because more of the mullet are going to be sweeping by on the outsides. It's going to draw them out of the marshes. So hold tight to those, mangrove covered shorelines, things of that nature, and look for areas of flow coming in and out of the marshes. Now, topwater plugs, weedless spoons, saltwater assassins, especially the 5-inch one in the watermelon slice or the avocado red, and the mullet patterns have been working really good for us this week, especially around the Titusville area, the Banana River around Cocoa Beach area as well, and then in the southern and middle portions of the Mesquite Lagoon. Now, the larger bull reds are working their way out of the Ponce Inlet area and the Mesquite Lagoon area, and they're working their way over into the Indian River Lagoon right now as well to start doing their spawning activity. So these larger fish are going to be concentrated in places like Haulover Canal when there's wind blowing and current coming through there, because they're going to be picking up shrimp, croakers, mullet, things like that they want to feed on so that they can prepare for this spawning activity. Most of our fish right now are running right around 10 inches to about 21 inches along the shorelines. And then, of course, we've got those bigger redfish, those bigger bulls that are going to be anywhere from 35 up to 50 inches in size. And here's a pair of them that I got a picture of. I had Nick and Logan out the other day. And Logan, well, I tell you, Logan's a stick. That kid can fish. 9 years old and was just absolutely putting a whooping on the fish the other day.
All right, Jim, you got about a minute to get your offshore, so scoot.
Gotcha. Topwater plugs is what these guys were mainly catching them on, but also on spoons. Now, offshore, it's kind of slow right now, but if you're getting way out there to the 120-mile buoy, there's some 25 to 35-pound yellowfin tuna, and they're, trolled skirts, trolled ballyhoo, any kind of dark-colored skirt seems to be working. Cedar plugs are working good, high-speed subsurface plugs as well. Look for packs of birds, but they seem to be holding on the buoy itself much better. And then Wahoo, Larry gave anglers an increased Wahoo action when it came by, that Hurricane Larry, here in my Real Legends region. But right now, guys are focusing on that western edge of the Gulf Stream and the rips and color changes and temperature breaks associated with it. We're getting Wahoo right now, trolling 10 to 16 knots. And most of those fish are running 40 to 60 pounds, Rick. And some of them are even running up into the 70-pound range. So there's some really good fish out there right now if you go out and specifically target those yellowfins or those Wahoo.
All right, man. It's good to see you. Thank you so much. Good report. We're going to go ahead and check out the Rodan Marine Systems hotspots from the Central East region. Jim says that inshore, snook and redfish at the inlets use live fingerling mullet, croakers, and pinfish on a knocker rig. And then offshore, Wahoo along the western edge of the Gulf Stream use high-speed lures to troll the rips, weed lines, and temperature breaks found there.
That was some really good info, Jim.
Yeah,
about dissecting a pier.
Yeah.
Loved it. Learned a lot.
You did
all right,
good.
well, that's all, folks, for Piers, Jetties, and beyond. But stay with us because we still have to tell you what we're setting our sights on next week. Yes, Rick, sit up straight. Posture is important.
Is it? Thank you, Mother.
We'll be back.
Your time on the water is precious. You return season after season to make unforgettable memories, fight a few fish, reconnect with friends, and recenter yourself. If you count on having this time, you need an outboard you can count on to power it. That's why boaters stay with Yamaha for the long run, for life. They know reliability starts here.
We are for those who know that opportunity is nothing without preparation. Those who know that the right gear can make or break a day. Born out of a need for reliability, tested and proven on the Miss Brit charter fleet. From terminal tackle to all your live bait needs. Whether you're fishing for fun or looking to win a tournament, R&R Tackle has what you need to stay ready.
All right, next week we are talking pompano. So make sure to tune in. I think Dave is gonna really just take this one away, aren't you, Dave?
Well, I don't know about that. I like pompano. I like fishing.
You're good at it.
Well, I know.
You're good at it.
I catch them sometimes.
You're gonna get a little Alvey.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. We'll have a bunch of Alvey stuff on here for sure.
Oh yeah. We're
My
excited.
beach cart, I'll drag it in here.
He's a long chucker.
Yeah, exactly.
We're excited to see that long chucker. All right, guys, thanks for tuning in.
Be careful when you say that.
Have a good weekend, and we'll see you next week.
Bye-bye.